Hello and welcome to Global News Today, bringing you exclusive interviews with leading experts every weekday here on Arabiya English. I'm Tom Burges Watson. Coming up on today's programme, Donald Trump and Elon Musk reignite their bitter feud, with the US president threatening to deport the tech tycoon and strip federal funds for his businesses. We ask Musk's father where he sees things heading to from here and what advice he has for his son. Plus, the Israeli foreign minister says he is interested in normalising ties with Syria and Lebanon. We ask, how significant a move would that be? Hello and welcome to the programme. The war of words between President Donald Trump and the world's richest man, Elon Musk, appears to be escalating. The former allies fell out some 3 weeks ago when Musk criticised President Trump's tax cut and spending bill, which, amongst other things, would eliminate subsidies for electric vehicle purchases. Well, those subsidies benefited Musk's EV company, Tesla. Well, in his latest comments, President Trump said that Musk was upset about all of this and other things, but in a thinly veiled threat, he seemed to suggest that Musk could stand to lose a lot more than just subsidies. Well, taking to his Truth Social platform, the president also said that Musk had got more subsidies than any human being in history, and that without subsidies, he'd probably have to close up shop and head back to South Africa. Well, let's take a listen now to what President Trump has been saying.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put DOGE on Elon. You know what DOGE is? DOGE is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, you know? So I'm going to give that one to Peter. I'm going to let Peter test it out. The hydrogen cars, and when they blow up, it's serious.
President Trump speaking there. Well, President Trump and Elon Musk have a history of mutual provocation, and previous rows between the two men have blown over. So will this one, or have things gone too far? Well, let's cross now to Cape Town and speak to Elon Musk's father, Errol Musk, who is a friend of the show, someone we've spoken to on a number of occasions. Mr. Musk, welcome back to Arabiya English. Great to have you with us, and thank you very much indeed for taking the time to join us. Last time we spoke was about 3 weeks ago, and that was just after the Twitter exchange between your son and President Trump. And you said at the time that you hoped that the two men would quickly draw a line under their feud. That doesn't seem to be happening. If anything, things seem to be escalating, don't they?
Well, you know, the world is in a terrible state of flux at the moment. And I myself find it not only here in this country, but I've been overseas in the last month in 3 or 4 countries, and everywhere it seems to be that people are very confused about the way forward. I personally am very grateful that we have at least Trump and not Biden or Harris or whatever her name was in America. But I quite frankly don't quite know what to say about the things that are going on. My son is a very straightforward individual, so it's difficult not to take note of what he says, because he's not a fool. He is a very, very how can you say, a very punctilious, or whatever the right word is, sort of person. He doesn't mess with words. He says what he means and says what he feels. So it's very difficult to ignore the things he says. As far as President Trump going against Elon, it's just so hard to understand. I can't really understand what is going on. It makes no sense to me at all.
Have you spoken to your son? I mean, how is he under the circumstances, Mr. Musk?
Well, we text each other. So at the same time, I don't like to interfere. I'm the old man, so what do I know, sort of thing. But I try to give good advice. I think it's very good for Elon's businesses to be, particularly Tesla, for example, to be distanced from politics. So in that respect, I think it's a good thing that he's thrown out of the internal arena of Trump's administration, and that he now has to get back to running businesses, which is what he's meant to do. At the same time, talking about starting a new party and all that kind of stuff, I've been watching it on British TV that two people want to start a new political party in England right now. The both of them have just been with the Reform Party, and now they both want to start a new party, even though Reform seems to be doing quite well. In other words, what I'm trying to say is there seems to be turmoil just about everywhere. And what the reason for the turmoil is very hard to understand. Everybody in the world is looking for a path forward to try and feel comfortable in the work that you're doing at home, wherever you are. But at the moment, things are topsy-turvy, really topsy-turvy. And one can only hope it's just, I don't know, something to do with sun flares or something like that for the moment, and hope that it will be over soon.
Okay,
I don't think that Elon differs in political opinion to Trump.
Yeah, when we spoke in June, when we spoke when the feud sort of began in the Twitter sphere, you told me you were going to be telling your son, to put a stop to this. That seemed to be your sort of fatherly advice to him.
Yes.
This feud needs to come to an end. He doesn't seem to be listening to you, does he?
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult. Human behavior, particularly when it comes to politics, is so complicated. I always use the example of, Churchill seeing England through the Second World War and then in 1945 immediately being thrown out of office. It just makes no sense at all. But all I can say is that people are at it left, right, and center, which is a good thing. Nobody's sitting back. Everybody's trying to have a say or get into the arena. So in many ways, it's probably a good thing. And probably good things will flow out of all of this. But at the moment, it's really something of what I would call turmoil. I personally don't know what to think, and I don't know what to say. I have said to Elon, please stay silent. Please don't encourage this situation. And in return, I read that he is proposing a new political party, which, quite frankly, I find it hard to believe. I just find it too hard to believe that he would do that. I don't believe it.
Do you support your son, though, for speaking out, speaking his mind about what he believes in particular against this tax and budget bill that is really what sort of started this feud in the first place? Yeah. Or do you think he should have perhaps been a little more diplomatic and kept quiet?
Yeah. Well, of course, when you write in any business, if you're in a business and you should ever be in a board meeting with the directors, I've seen board meetings where from one side of the table, they threaten to kill the guys on the other side of the table. This is at a board meeting of a big company. People's emotions get the better of them, especially when money and progress are at stake. So it's understandable. It's just strange that it's in the public, it's in the public arena that we're seeing this, because usually, of course, one never hears about this kind of thing. In some ways, that's probably a good thing. But I have suggested to my son to, cool it, just leave, don't. I have said to him as well that in order for them to rebuild the United States, because the United States needs a lot of rebuilding, they need to spend money. It's like loaning to buy a house, to build a home or build a building or something. It's what you have to do, and you know, one looks at what you're loaning against what your assets are, and in the United States, you know, even though the deficit is 35 trillion, the country's worth about 400 trillion or 350 to 400 trillion. So it's only 10% of your assets that you're borrowing against. So in my opinion, there's no problem with borrowing in the United States and building the country. I think it's a good thing. Elon's approach is no, we must stop borrowing any money at all. And that's not going to help anybody. You know, you have to spend money in order to make money.
Do you think
I don't agree with that. I
do you not think
Trump's bill?
Do you not think it would be a wise idea for you to jump on a plane and perhaps have a word with your son if your messages that you're sending by text aren't being listened to?
I've always, I've never forced them in any direction, and I've always listened to them. And as I said just now, Elon is, very, very serious person. He's not given to making crazy statements. Generally speaking, he's a very someone you can rely on if he tells you something. So I can understand the feeling that they have, that they don't want to keep on borrowing money. But at the end of the day, that's what we all do every day of our lives. We borrow money in order to move forward and turn that money into more money. That's how it works. So quite frankly, I think that there's too many emotions or something involved here. I can't quite put my finger on it all. It's very interesting, and we're all lucky to be able to see it instead of it all being behind closed doors. But, at the same time, I'm very glad that Elon is back in the field where he belongs, and that is dealing with the companies that he runs. That's what I would say. I don't know what else to say.
Do you think the tension has affected Elon personally, would you say?
Do I think?
Do you feel like the tension between your son and President Trump has affected your son personally?
Well, no. Obviously, in all human relationships, when you get too, involved with one another, you become, things do go out of hand. I mean, it's normal. It's human behavior. It's one-upmanship. I use the example, for example, of Julius Caesar. He got up one morning, went to have a coffee, went to buy the Daily Tablet, walked down to the Forum, and he's just been told he's the most popular man in the Roman Empire, and people are suggesting he should be the emperor. And he arrives in the Forum, and 5 or 6 of his friends are there, and he greets them nicely, and they walk over to him, and they all put a knife in him and kill him. That's classic. That's the classic example of politics. The assassination of Julius Caesar. I mean, it's just too weird to understand these things. You have to be in the midst of political turmoil to even have a vague grasp of what is going on. I could go on. I mean, how Napoleon was elected to be the first consul is classic. It was never intended. It was a mistake. But without digressing in that direction, all those directions, I don't know. I think that the last 6 months have probably been the most tense and complicated and involved of Elon's life, for sure. In spite of all the things he's done, politics is turmoil. And, the only thing that comes close to politics, the turmoil of politics, is the turmoil of human male-female relationships, where anything can go, anything happens, and so again, I'm just hoping that this sort of thing will calm down. And at any rate, the main thing is we can see what's going on. It's open. It's in the public arena. I think it's quite a good thing in that respect. But I'm puzzled. I'm really puzzled.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the only one, Mr. Musk. I mean, we're in a situation, aren't we, where the world's richest man is threatening the world's most powerful man, and vice versa. We've got your son threatening President Trump in a veiled way, saying he's in the Epstein files. He was saying that a couple of weeks ago. Now he's saying he's going to launch a party and perhaps threatening him there in the political field. And we've got President Trump saying, DOGE is the monster that might go back and eat Elon. He's also threatened him with deportation. I mean, as a father, does it worry you that your son has angered the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who's not an entirely predictable person? Does it worry you that he's angered him to this degree?
No, it doesn't. I don't see anything like that happening. I see these people, flinging, much like they do in Parliament, flinging insults at one another, as they often used to do in the British Parliament. And, because it's like protected speech in Parliament, you sort of get away with it, or in Congress. But all I can say is tempers are flaring and everybody's determined to get their way. And in some ways, I think it's very interesting. But at the same time, it's also quite worrying. So I'd be more pleased to hear, that they make friends. They can only help each other. There's no question about it. They can only help each other by being friends. And clearly, something is bothering Elon, and it's difficult not to take notice of it because Elon is, as I say, a very practical person, and so it's difficult to simply say Elon is making a mistake. I don't know. I don't think he would be making a mistake. At the same time, I've seen. I was in politics in this country. I've seen tempers flare in, meetings inside chambers. Sometimes public, sometimes not public. Unfortunately, in the political world, tempers flare, and as I say, Julius Caesar found it out the hard way. And so, for example, and I think we are sitting here at an interesting point in time. Something good will come out of all this, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure that something good will come out of this. But we're certainly not back in the days of last year, where people in the US were despondent to the point of wondering where they should go to. They might have to leave the United States when Biden was the president because they saw their country falling to pieces. Sure. Now it's another story altogether. It's about, do we rebuild the United States or do we just let it stand as it is? Or what do we do? And so we've got a situation where we have positive people arguing with each other, not negative people, positive people, both determined to do something Sure. positive for the United States.
But not just arguing, they're threatening each other. And President Trump seemed to be toying with the idea of deporting your son. Do you think your son will be deported?
No. I can't believe that. That would be ludicrous. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's ridiculous. You can't deport somebody who's a citizen of the United States, whose children are all citizens. He's got a lot of children. His brothers and sisters are all United States citizens. I mean, that's crazy. No, you can't do that. That's a below the belt sort of thing to suggest. I can't even believe that Trump would suggest something like that. So you have to imagine, did the media come up with that? Because here we have a chance for the media to have a heyday, and pretend that this was said and that was said. I personally, I simply don't know what to say about it. I just think that it's the most important people are very important to us all, are having it out. And so we have to stand by and see how it goes. That's all.
Yeah, I mean,
we're certainly not talking about negative people. We're talking about people with very positive agendas.
Yeah, President Trump, to answer your question where this came out, he was asked by a reporter if he had plans to deport your son, and he said, "I don't know, we'll have to take a look." So he seemed to be sort of, it was a thinly veiled threat. It wasn't an overt threat.
No.
One of the other things that President Trump is reported to have said is to try to explain your son's behavior. He said something along the lines of, Elon is a big-time drug addict. Do you think there's any truth in that?
Drug addict? Oh, no. Elon had, in fact, last month, when this came up, Elon went and had a public, he went and had himself checked out, and then they published the results. Of course, it was all zero and everything, zero, 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 nothing at all, no, nothing. Elon is the last person on earth to take drugs. He can barely handle alcohol. You know, 2 beers and he's a goner. So no, Elon is not taking drugs. That's ridiculous. But none of us are that way inclined. We're all somewhat prudish when it comes to things like that. No.
Has your son just
again, it's a question of throwing stones at each other. They're trying to throw stones, but why? I don't know. I don't think this bill is such a big deal. I mean, you need to spend money in order to rebuild the United States. You need to spend money to make money.
Sounds like you're on President Trump's side.
I just want to say, the United States can easily afford to have a national debt of 50 trillion. Easily afford it. It is such a wealthy country. It's the first world on steroids. I just spent April in the United States. Everybody is so positive. The place is perfect from one end to the other. There's not a stone, not a blade of grass out of place. Everything is so perfect. It's hard to believe in all the places I went to, which was from California to Texas. And so the United States can easily afford to have a national debt of 50 trillion, 60 trillion. What's the difference? It's an extremely wealthy country. And they don't even know what hardship is in America. No one knows what hardship is. They have no idea. 99% of the people haven't got the faintest clue what it is to do without. And that includes some of the so-called minority communities. They're so spoiled, it's ridiculous.
Casting your mind back to when your son was much younger, did he have tumultuous relationships in his private life? Does he have a history of these sorts of flare-ups with people in his personal life, his romantic life, his business life?
Yes. No. Elon has always been a sort of Puritan. Talking about those sort of Puritan Christians or whatever you call it. He's always been a sort of Puritan. In other words, he shouldn't lie, and he's quick to judge people and things like that, without really giving it much thought. And in that respect, I've always thought, well, he'll temper that. He'll as he gets older, he'll become less Puritan and more understanding of people and the failings that people have and so on, and not be so harsh on when people don't match up to his expectations. And it doesn't seem like that's happening much. He's also been in the spotlight for 20 years where, he can barely move without somebody, saying something about it. If he so much as says he likes something simple like any sort of soft drink or anything like that, it suddenly becomes the world's national soft drink. So he has to. It's very difficult to live in when the spotlight is on you day and night, and every word you say. I mean, it was 10 years ago or 8 years ago, something like that, when I read that he has 4 times more effect on the stock market in America than Warren Buffett, and 8 times more than Bill Gates. he has some most effect on the, if he says anything, on the stock market in America. And it's hard to live in a life, to be in that sort of situation all the time, where people simply expect you to be, some sort of like God, and he's not. He's an ordinary person who's trying to figure things out all the time. And, I think there could be much more to this than just the bill, because I think, Elon is used to dealing with people in his businesses who are all sort of, AAA graduates, and all that sort of stuff. And when you get into the government, unfortunately, the people you appoint to posts around you in cabinet posts and ministerial posts and stuff like that are often not the most capable, but rather the ones that are most loyal.
Okay.
And so, whereas in business, you appoint regardless, you appoint the most capable regardless, because you know that the salary the person gets is going to shut them up. But in politics, in the world of, the political world, you have to appoint the people who are the most loyal to you and not the most capable. And that would probably annoy Elon no end, because he would want the most capable and not the most loyal.
Okay. I mean, just to sort of wrap things up, let me just ask you, if you'd be so kind. I mean, supposing President Trump is watching this program, what would be your message to him?
Well, listen to Elon. He's not a fool. Listen to what Elon has to say. Talk it out. Elon is not stupid. But at the same time, he's also not all-knowing. So if things are explained to Elon very, very in a way that Elon would then be able to see things differently, that's the way they should go. They shouldn't be at loggerheads. They should be able to explain it to Elon. Explain why they are doing things. Mr. Besant has said he knows about finance, and he suggests Elon should stick with rockets. Well, there's a lot of truth in that. And so they need to, these are bull elephants, all of them, bull elephants, and they simply don't operate on reason, just like in the wild. Bull elephants don't operate on reason. They operate on instinct.
Sure.
And I think that's where we are now. They're operating on instinct. And usually that produces good results. So let's see what happens. But certainly I would say to President Trump, and I don't have to tell him this, Elon is a very good person. He's a very, very good person, very, very decent, very Puritan, unfortunately, terribly Puritan, which is good and bad. And, and at the same time, Elon is young. He doesn't have the experience that I have, and that, people like Donald Trump have, who are much older and have much more experience.
Okay, in the last 10 seconds we have, a very quick message to your son.
Well, listen, and instead of talking, listen to what they have to say. Ask them to explain it to you. Ask them to explain themselves to you before you start throwing stones. Ask them to explain to you why they are doing things the way they are doing them, and you're opposed to it. Explain to them why you're opposed to it, so that at least you can come to some sort of understanding where you can move forward. And I no doubt this will happen. I have no doubt this will, in fact, happen.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it. Errol Musk, father of Elon Musk. Thank you for joining us on Arabiya English.